A dark black fog takes over an entire country, and anything it touches turns lifeless. Can it be stopped? Let's find out, as today, on Story Recaps, we will be covering the first 4 episodes of the series Merc Storia, the apathetic boy and the girl in a bottle. Merc Storia takes place in a world where humans and monsters coexist. The protagonist is a young boy named Yu, who has healing capabilities to tame monsters. One day when Yu's father, Tito, returns from one of his travels, he brings Yu a strange present, which is a jar that contains some kind of liquid in it. Yu is annoyed by the present, as he was expecting something better, but his father consoles him by claiming that the jar is special and it contains some magical powers. Later, while having dinner, Tito mentions that he will once again be gone and will return only in the winter. This makes little Yu sad, as he has always been away from his father. In the next scene, Yu is enjoying a sunny day with his father. Meanwhile, Tito starts narrating a story about how the monsters came into existence. It turns out that monsters were once deadly predators who used to attack humans and eliminate them. However, mystical people called the healers treated all the monsters by healing the rage inside them. Now the monsters and humans live together in harmony. Here, we also get to know that Tito is a healer, and he is teaching Yu how to be one. Following this, the movie fasts forward to the winter season, where Yu can be seen waiting for his father. Just then, the liquid jar opens and a small fairy-like girl named Merc emerges from it. This astonishes Yu, but the two quickly start bonding. Merc does not have any memories before meeting Yu, but she is capable of talking with monsters. On the other hand, Yu is afraid of monsters, despite having healing abilities. Next, Yu and Merc are in a shop to buy some essentials. Turns out that the two are heading out on a journey to discover different parts of the world. Meanwhile, Merc finds sparkly gemstones and gets smitten by them. She tries her best to convince Merc into buying it, but the latter declines. Later, Merc mentions that they must leave for the journey soon, as her horoscope mentioned that it's the perfect day to travel. She hopes that the journey can bring back her memories. The shopkeeper explains that people do not actually need a reason to travel, but perhaps they could find somebody on the journey who knows about Merc. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper's assistant arrives there and shows them a stink bag that will keep them safe from monsters. Hearing this, Yu immediately buys the bag, despite its price being 5,000 gold pieces. As the group is discussing, a monster-like fluff ball steals the stink bag from Yu and runs away. As the duo spent their entire fortune on the bag, they chase after the fluff ball to retrieve it. A while later, they reach a monster carnival where a lot of people are enjoying the festivities. Right then, a giant monster, Mr. Flambear, appears, and he seems to be really angry at the fluff ball. The monster scares everyone, and when Merc mentions that Yu is a healer, everyone urges him to cure the monster. However, instead of using his powers, Yu simply runs away. In the next scene, as Yu and Merc are discussing Fluffball, they hear a roaring noise coming from the forest. Thinking that Fluffball might be in danger, Merc pleads with Yu to rescue it. At first, Yu is hesitant, but when Merc insists, he agrees. On reaching the forest, they find an unhealed monster chasing after the Fluffball. Just then, the monster changes its target and starts chasing Yu. Terrified, he runs as fast as he can, but soon reaches a dead end. Just when the monster is about to finish him off, Fluffball comes between them. This momentarily distracts the monster, and Merc throws the stink bag inside its mouth. She then urges Yu to use his healing powers before it's too late. This time, Yu gathers enough courage and eventually heals the monster with his magic. Later, they meet the shopkeepers, who have packed all the necessary items for the journey. They also mention that everything is free, since Yu saved the town from the deadly monster. After this, Yu and Merc start their journey, and they are guided by Jamo, who is a trader by profession. As they reach a bit further, Fluffball joins them too, despite Yu's approval. In the next scene, when the group reaches a village called Aruka, Jamo reveals that the village mayor's eldest son changed the policies of the village and imported technology and cultural advancements in a very short time, which developed the place at a fast pace. Suddenly, an unhealed monster arrives there and starts attacking them. This monster seems to be deadlier than the previous one, and Yu is frozen in fear and cannot use his healing powers. Just when all hope seems to be lost, a man appears out of nowhere and attacks the monster, causing it to run away. The man is none other than the mayor's eldest son, Harshit. Following a bit of chat, Harshit finds out that Yu is a healer, and as a result, he takes the group to his palace. After they arrive there, the palace servant, Tanar, informs Harshit that the daughter of Aramu's mayor, Lily, along with her watchdog, Belnar, have brought a marriage proposal. This surprises Harshit, but he chooses to make them wait. Instead, he tells Tanar to show the new guests, Yu and Merc, to their rooms. As Tanar shows them their beautiful room, they see that Lily is hiding on the balcony of the room. She meets Yu and Merc and tells them that she is not ready for marriage and that she is being forced to marry someone she does not like. Hearing this, Merc becomes enraged and advises her to run away and give herself some time to think about it. Initially, the idea scares Lily, but when she realizes all the misery she'll have to face after getting married, she agrees to run away. Following this, she asks Yu to take her away from the village, to which he agrees. Later, after the group escapes, Belnar catches wind of it and assumes that Lily has been kidnapped. Panicked, he immediately starts to look for her in the jungle along with Harshit. Meanwhile, the two get into an argument as Belnar thinks that women aren't capable of fighting and defending themselves, to which Harshit strongly disagrees. Elsewhere, Lily, Yu, and Merc meet Harshit's brother, Sahan, who has been working on creating fireworks that bloom in the sky. There, they find a friendly monster, Garshan, who has been injured after a fight. The group quickly patches it up, and as they are enjoying their time, Lilu realizes that she shouldn't have run away from Belnar. She then concludes that she will confront her father about her decision and will only marry someone she likes. Following this, she heads to Belnar with Garshan leading the way. Meanwhile, Yu, Merc, Sahan, and Fluffball are wandering around the forest when they suddenly fall inside a large pit. To make matters worse, a large monster named Mr. Murky Ogre approaches them. Left with no choice, Yu digs down deep and unleashes his healing abilities on the monster, sending it away. Following this, Sahan releases his fireworks from the pit, and as a result, Lily and Belnar rescue them. All of them reach Yuruka's palace, and Lily requests Harshit if it is possible to have an alliance without marriage, as neither of them is ready for marriage. Just then, Sahan calls out Harshit as sister, and everyone realizes that Harshit is actually a girl. In the next scene, we are taken to a country named Spring Hill, where all the residents are fairies, who can fly using their wings. Meanwhile, inside the royal castle, Princess Saladia is being taught history lessons by a butler. However, being the spoiled kid that she is, she quickly gets bored and decides to leave. The butler tries to give her a talisman locket to keep her safe, but the princess disregards it, mentioning that it's not cute. While she is flying, she stomps her head and falls near a beautiful small sword. Curious, she pulls the sword that was wedged inside a rock, and as soon as she does so, a dark smoke arises and eats up the sky. Elsewhere, Yu and his group are entering Spring Hill when two fairies stop them and inquire if any of them is a healer. Yu remains silent, but Merc rats him out, and as a result, they are taken to the castle. There, the queen sadly shows the pitch-black smog and says that Spring is being eaten. She also mentions that anything that the black smoke touches wilts or dries. She tried her best to stop the smoke, but since there is a dragon behind it, she failed. Hence, the queen asks Yu for his help. After a bit of consideration, Yu agrees, and before leaving, the queen blesses the group with the power of spring. Meanwhile, Princess Saladia is in her room contemplating the consequences of the magic sword that she had pulled out. She does not want anyone to know that she is the culprit behind the dangerous fog. However, she is also afraid to fight the dragon, as she believes that she does not have powers like her mother. Just then, she strikes up an idea to save herself. She plans to hand out the sword to Yu without telling him where she got it. In this way, the dragon can be eliminated, and she can become a hero for helping out in the mission. before leaving, she wears the talisman locket given by her butler, hoping that is better than nothing. Elsewhere, a fairy from the Sugororu clan, Minaraya, is drinking in a bar when another fairy from the Grandal clan, Paristos, arrives. Turns out that the two clans have been at war for ages, and because of this, Minaraya and Paristos get into an argument. But before they can start their fight, the bartender kicks them out. Yu and his group also arrive there, and as all of them are conversing, the princess comes flying at them, followed by some monsters. Wasting no time, the warriors team up and save the princess, while Yu uses his powers to ward off the monsters. After this, the entire group settles their differences and decides to confront the dragon together, so that they can save Spring Hill. They then ride on Fluffball, who has grown massive because of the magical powers of Spring Hill. Soon, they reach the Black Forest, where they meet a fairy with wings who cannot fly. They ask for the fairy's help to defeat the dragon, but the latter refuses. Instead, he criticizes the princess for being a brat. This deeply offends the princess, and she screams in anger. In the next scene, Princess Saladia is still angry with the fairy's comments. As she continues blabbering alone, Yu and Merc notice her with the sword and get perplexed. The princess tries to explain, but she has a hard time coming up with a story. She goes crazy because if she cannot foist the sword off to Yu, she will have to fight the dragon herself. However, she gets relieved when she realizes that her friends can lead her to the dragon and defeat it. All she has to do is be with them. Later, as the group is walking in the forest, they see some monsters approaching them. However, the monsters do not attack them and simply go through them. Just then, they see the dark fog approaching them, and in a state of panic, the princess falls off a fluffball. Wasting no time, Minaraya springs into action and saves the princess. But, in the process, her sword falls off. Paristos quickly retrieves the sword, but sadly, he is cornered by the fog. As he is about to be engulfed whole, the flightless fairy arrives on a monster and rescues him. After a while, the fairy from the dark forest takes them to a safe place where they can rest for the night. Finally, he reveals his name to be Zephoridai and joins the group in their quest to defeat the dragon. The next day, as they are walking through the Hanging Bell Forest, the princess is suddenly attacked by a spider, but is left unharmed. She wakes up and realizes that her talisman locket saved her. Seeing this, Zephoridai explains that the talisman has a powerful spell empowered inside it, which is capable of swatting away monsters. However, as the talisman is now broken, the princess is devastated and starts to cry. She then reveals the whole truth that she has been lying the whole time, and she is actually the one who broke the dragon's seal and released the fog. Despite the revelation, the group decides to forgive her and continues on their journey. In the next scene, they reach a cave far away from Spring Hill, which is very dark, cold, and windy. Princess Saladia reaches a trance state where she meets a shadow of herself. The shadow suggests she kill the dragon, but the princess wants to convince it to stop eating Spring with love and kindness. Meanwhile, Yu gathers a lot of energy and heals the dragon, who appears to be lonely and hurt. After this, the princess apologizes to the dragon and lays flowers on him, promising that Spring will come for him as well. Just as she wishes the dragon, the dark smoke disappears, and Spring comes with a warm feeling for everyone. The queen is extremely proud that her daughter brought Spring at last. The episode ends as the entire group celebrates their victory inside the pub.